must a man walk down.
After 3 decades of being a rabbi and a teacher in the Jewish community, I found that audiences couldn't answer the question, what is the purpose of Judaism? They're ready for a question about what makes up Judaism, and they want to tell you about Shabbat or Purim or Passover Seder, but what is the purpose was too big a question, and maybe it was too basic a question. So I argue that the 2 primary purposes of Judaism are Tzedek and Kedusha, both deeply rooted in Torah. Tzedek is the mandate for Jews to extend the boundaries of righteousness and justice in the world, to help mend a broken world. Kedusha is the notion of our being a sacred people with a sacred purpose, which stands somewhat apart from the rest of the world, meaning that the only way to maintain the integrity of the Jewish idea, of the covenant at Sinai, is for us to be a little bit apart from the rest of the world, what I call sacred apartness. And the irony, of course, is that Tzedek requires full engagement with the world. Kedusha requires pulling back a little bit and to affirm the fact that there is value in Jewish particularism. When I look at all the Jewish justice organizations that are gathered here at this wonderful conference for Siach, one common thread is that they all get the Tzedek piece, but all of them really struggle with the Kedusha piece, because very few people have seen a model that integrates the work of justice in the world with what makes this a sacred calling.
I think our world is increasingly fractured and divided, and I think our ability to be aware of the needs of the other is becoming harder and harder. And I think for me, one of the goals that I have in my life is that people will see service and social justice and involvement in our community, and not just the Jewish community, but the broader community, as an imperative of what it is to be Jewish. Like, what's our value proposition as Jews? We lead with all these other ideas and goals, and it's about continuity, and it's about this, and it's about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and it's about intermarriage, but those aren't really values. You know, it's like, to me, when we start talking from a place of we value service to the other, you know, addressing some of the most pressing needs in society and in the world, then I think we have something to say in the world, and we have a rich tradition and history that comes from that place and speaks to those things. And to me, that's what we need to be focusing on as a community.
Now we're living in a world that's very much globalized. The economy is globalized, cultures are globalized. Politics is, very much a global affair. I feel that if we're global in every other way, we also have to be global in our ethical reach. We have both the right and we have the privilege to taking action to try and create a better future for humanity.
Look at the Torah. There will always be poor in the land. Therefore, I command you to open your hand, to the stranger, the widow, and the orphan. Remember, you were strangers in the land of Egypt. The thing that is an animating principle for so much of Jewish tradition is the recollection of having been there. We were slaves in the land of Egypt. What is the Passover narrative? It's from exile to redemption, from slavery to freedom. Like, that's rooted so deeply in our narratives. And if you look at, like, what do you do? What is Purim? What is one of the dominant themes of Purim? It's not just getting so drunk you can't hear Haman's name anymore. It's also matanot levyonim, giving gifts to the poor. It's an imperative built within the holiday. What is Sukkot? Sukkot, you're supposed to welcome. You're supposed to be out. You're supposed to essentially live homeless. You live outside, and you're supposed to be able to hear the voices of the street.
Victory in the work of Tzedek is not getting rid of the problem. It's having the fortitude and the character to say, I'm doing this for some higher reason, and I'm connecting my work with some kind of sacred calling. And the people who are most successful in the work of Tzedek, Jews and non-Jews, are the people who feel that is part of a calling, whether by God or sacred purpose. And we Jews have that in spades. We really have a rich legacy of what is our sacred purpose. But I think for a lot of Jews who have come to their Jewish connections through justice work, through Tzedek work, they've yet to acquire the language, the vocabulary of Kedusha.